A very warm welcome to this very interesting webinar. And I must say that I'm doing this kind of webinar, this topic for the first time. Just for the people who don't know me, I'm Dr. Namrata. I am a pediatrician by my qualification. I've seen patients and have been a part of the healthcare. Then I became a medical writer about 15 years back and founded Curacause about 10 years back. And I'm heading a team of medical writers, graphic designers, and I work around medical communications and scientific communications. Now, the reason why I thought of having this webinar and this specific topic, there is a lot of I would say interest in the involvement of patient, whether it is in clinical trials or it is in other drug development stages, as well as when the product reaches the market and when we have to educate the patient for successful healthcare outcomes. The role of patients, the patient is patient or caregiver or anybody, in that sense. So it can be patient advocacy also. So all that is becoming very important now because of all the solutions which we have. We have to somewhere, match it with what the patients need. So we thought of having this webinar where we're going to talk about how are we going to get the patient at the table. We are providing solutions, we are providing communication for the patients, but is the patient involved in all the decision making in all the stages that we are working on from the beginning itself? So that's where this topic is interesting, and that is where the importance of this topic is there. Now, just to give you a brief, outline of what we will be discussing today, obviously we want to understand what is patient centricity. We all talk of centricity, we all talk of inclusivity, but what does it mean in real life? And when, we are dealing with them, how do we kind of involve with them, engage with them, and how do we bring them, at the center? Second part of the session is going to be, there are certain guidelines which talk about patient centricity and inclusivity, and the only reason why I have included these guidelines are just to kind of validate the whole issue here, the whole topic, that it's not only that we are talking about it, there is a buzz, this is a buzzword which is there, but even the regulatory bodies, even the compliance agencies are asking for it and they are looking for it. And the third part is going to be, what is the role of patient when we talk of patient, especially in scientific communication, because that is what I work on, that is what my expertise is, and I just wanted to bring that also in the discussion, that where does a patient enter when we are actually communicating, whether it is in the form of a patient leaflet or maybe some educational material which we are preparing. That has somewhere has that effect on her, where she feels that no, I don't want to again go through the whole experience. They have to be active caretakers and be involved in the decisions what are being taken, what are being made for them. And rather than having a fragmented care where sometimes we involve patients, sometimes we don't, it is a complete care path where patient has to be involved at each step, at each stage, and educated along with it, and the awareness has to increase. Now it is going to be difficult, it is obviously difficult when you try to, because we speak in a very scientific and a medical understanding. We know what the complications are, we know the percentages which are there, we know the safety efficacy of any treatment, but when you have to convey it to a patient, it has to be conveyed in a way in which you are balancing the benefit and the risk. Now, if we are only talking about the risks there, obviously the patient is not going to come ahead and take the treatment. Or else, if we are only talking about the benefits, that this treatment is very good for you, and then something happens wrong during the treatment, that can happen with anyone. So then the patient or the attendants or the caregivers may not be mentally prepared for all that. Now, in one snapshot, there are so many different regulatory guidelines are there, compliance bodies are there. So FPI is for the European Pharmaceutical Association, ABPI is for UK. Then there are the regulatory agencies, FDA and EMA, FDA for US, EMA for Europe, and CDER is again for US drug approvals. Now, all of them, what is the common thing here, as you can see on the slide, it is they have to be fully informed. So they should know everything about their treatment. They have to be active partners in decision making at all levels of health system. So whether it is at a prophylactic phase or at a treatment or maybe in a convalescence phase, wherever it is, wherever the patients are involved, they have to be kind of active partners in the decision making. Also, they have also kind of they have stats, they have data which say that if the healthcare professionals industry, they work with patients and patient organizations, it is going to bring forward a significant public health benefit. Since I told you that I'm a medical writer and I'm a scientific I work a lot on scientific communication and how we are communicating. So now there are there is a new guideline which came up last year in September, which is Good Publication Practices 3 guidelines, and they have also mentioned at various stages where all a patient can be involved when we are talking of a very scientific document as a publication which is published in a journal. Now, patients, caregivers, and patient advocates, they can be a part of publication steering committees. Now, what are publication steering committees? They are committees who decide what to publish, where to publish, and and especially when we talk about rare diseases and chronic conditions. It's actually about a person, her name is Dr. Lisa Sanders. She's a columnist from the New York Times. And what she does is, so she normally writes columns on various healthcare related topics and issues around it. Now what this series shows us, so they have actually connected, they have certain patients who have not been diagnosed by their doctors, by their hospital, and they are still searching for diagnosis. Now, we're talking of something where the patient is maybe might be having excruciating pain or is not able to sleep. So the one which I saw, it was a girl, 20-year-old girl, who had myopathy, and she had extreme pain, and she was a very athletic person. So because of that pain, she was not able to do what she wanted to do. She was not able to go on hiking, and she had and the doctors were not able to diagnose her. Now, the role of patient in healthcare, as you see, so it's very wide. So you have a patient who may give you insight on a product or a service design, that what should you design, what is the need of a patient, and is what we are preparing or is what we are creating relevant for them or not. Second is obviously the clinical research. We talk about, there is poor enrollment, patients are not showing up, there is missing follow-ups, they don't come up after some time, they discontinue the treatment in between. So all this happens because probably they are not aligned with the whole goal of the clinical research and what we are trying to do. Now, inclusion is that we are including the patient-centric outcomes. So this is somewhere where we talk about the patient-reported outcomes, or maybe the experiences, what they have, the insights, what they are conveying. So that has to be included in the whole planning of what we have. Second is assessment. Now, we have to assess the patients, maybe by surveys, conducting surveys or questionnaires to assess their experience, to take their feedback on various aspects of the treatment and the care what has been given to them. Child is not crying and there is no cancellation of appointments. So this is the impact of something so simple, but when you see the outcome, when you see the whole impact of it, it was something which is mind blowing, and which is very interesting, and for us to take a lesson from. Now, coming to the last slide of okay, so Bhagyashree is asking that can you please elaborate a bit on patient involvement in product development and designing? So this is actually whether the develop. So when you're actually developing a product, you have to see whether this is needed by the patient or not. Now, if you're developing a product for diabetes, so we can have a group of patients who have diabetes and maybe have a discussion with them, ask them, if we have a product like this, do you think it is going to ease your life or maybe help you with your management of your disease? So that type of feedback and insights we can get. Now, once the product, once we have a prototype which is created, once we have a sample which is created, then give it to them and ask them to use it, and then come back with their feedback, with their insights on how is it designing, and whether they would want to make any changes there. So that is how we can involve the patient at this stage. Can participants of clinical trials be involved in the drug development process? So this is what we're talking of when we say patient centricity. We're talking of giving a voice to the patient to talk about how they have experienced, what their experiences have been, what their insights have been, and that itself helps you in the development process. So we've covered all the questions, and it was good to have all of you today in the session. And you can always maybe reach out to me on LinkedIn, or let me know if you want to know anything more. And it was nice to have all of you. And now thank you so much, and have a lovely week ahead.